and live from the infamous Murph's Pub. I'm Jeremy Taylor, and welcome to this week's Wednesday Night Undress, the podcast that reaches into the wobbly places other podcasts dare adventure. We have had some technical anomalies over the last few weeks, and so I'm sorry if you've been listening all over Europe and you've not got what you wanted, but we have new equipment at great expense today, and so we hope that in a few days' time this will be up. And as I say, we don't claim to look at things scientifically, but we definitely have all the answers to your mysteries, vegetable, animal and mineral. We even know the kings and queens of England and questions most political. In short, we can explain matters mathematical, physical and medical. We are the only naked podcast you can undress to on a Wednesday night whilst wallowing in your bath. And let me introduce tonight's panel. Jane is back with us. Andre's with us. Meredith's with us. Cassidy, Lewis and Fernando.
Hello.
Hi.
Mr. Jeremy, I wanted to start off the show.
Evo and
Jeremy are going to be here, yeah.
Yes.
Jeremy, I wanted to offer condolences because the Queen has passed and you have spent some time hanging out in the British part of the world.
Well, the first few years of my life. I mean, I'm 35, and so, it was...
Let's be for real.
Excuse me. A little bit of seriousness now, please, miss. It was... well, everybody knew it was coming. And when it did, nobody was ready for it.
She's been like a staple for your society, like a stabilizing force for like 70 years. Like, I don't know that we as Americans can actually relate to having a public figure around that long.
She was a calming force on all sorts of things. She was always calm. She was always there. She always did the Christmas speech, 3 o'clock, Christmas Day, turn the Queen on, and it's weird and it's very difficult to explain how the vast majority of Brits and people from Northern Ireland, the United Kingdom, and all around the Commonwealth feel about the Queen's passing. Because there isn't anybody like her. Mm-hmm. Prince Charles may work very hard now that he's King Charles III, but he doesn't have that gravitas that 70 years on the throne gives one.
Right.
And she is, in fact, the longest serving royal ever, bar someone who became a royal accidentally when they were 4 years old and didn't serve, as in a regency. She has served as queen all my life, before I was born. And I was 7. No, I was 7 when I was born already, and so that was it's a bit difficult. And all right, so I got a question specifically for you because you've been over here for how long now? 20 years.
So you have no doubt seen the animus that has come out at her since her passing, and it just seems to be a little bit louder right now. Like, does the idea that she stands for all of these evils that the British Empire has done in the past, like, does that resonate with you? Do you
Well, I don't believe that she did stand for them. And when somebody says, may her pain in death be excruciating, that's just plain unnecessary.
Right.
And all it is a woman trying to score points for herself and become even more famous and just saying unpleasant things. As to what the Brits did 200 years ago, or even, say, in the First World War, for example.
Yeah.
I can't justify that. It is clear that the Queen, Prince Charles, now King Charles III, and Prince William of Wales are attempting to sort of ease their way through, and I'm sure that there will be a number of countries who are part of the Commonwealth who will cease to be part of the Commonwealth. But it is interesting that if you take Australia and they have a referendum, when it actually comes down to it, they don't want to leave.
Right.
There's a lot of people who do, but there are a lot of people who still like having the Queen. I don't understand why. I can't give you a reason, but that's just how it is.
Right.
And the royal family have a habit of putting their foot in it. Prince Charles, King Charles, has just done that. He as Prince Charles, he operated out of a place called Clarence House, which was his base. He had around 100 staff. Most of them have been told that they're going to be let go because he doesn't need them anymore. He's moving to Buckingham Palace, where there are already a staff. Now, all right, the small prince says, yes, they're going to try and find jobs for them, do. But that was announced at one of the first services while the Scottish service was going on. They were given their redundancy notices. All I'm trying to say is that perhaps they could have been a little bit more sensitive. The royal family are not known for their sensitivity. And the Queen has...
Right.
has been told. It's said that there are two missteps that she's made. One was with the Aberfan disaster. That's when the shale from a mine suddenly decided to go for a walk across a Welsh village and destroyed most of the village and a school with kids in it. And she had to be told that she needed to turn up and go and console people. And then, of course, there was the Diana thing where she refused to drop the ensign, the flag. And, of course, as she reasoned, well, I'm not at Buckingham Palace. I'm up in Scotland. And so we would just be flying a Union Jack. And the royal ensign is only dropped on the death of a monarch. That is how it has been for 1,000 years, certainly 300. And she just didn't get it. And it was Tony Blair, the Prime Minister, who had to go to Scotland and say to her, look, Your Majesty, you know, you've got to be listening to the people. It needs to happen. People ask, is it time to abolish the monarchy? No, I don't think it is. So I don't know whether that gives you help. What can Charles do? You know, that's the point. He's thinning down the royal family as active royals dramatically. He's making it very clear to Prince Andrew, his brother, you are not going to be part of the active royal family, of what they call the firm. You're just not going to be part of it. And the same with Prince Harry, you know, who threw all sorts of wobblies and tantrums and went off to live in America. I have some sympathy for Harry, a lot of sympathy for Harry, actually.
Because he married some American woman?
And because
American woman.
he doesn't like the way he's been treated, and he's had the gall to say something about it because he's being pushed, just as my wife, my lovely American wife, would push me. I can see, I have some sympathy. But there are people who are getting all terribly worked up because Andrew and Harry are not wearing uniforms. You've got to understand, they're the only two who've seen actual active service, right?
Right.
Whereas all the rest of them are wandering around in their uniforms and with gongs weighing down their left breast, have not seen active service.
Right.
And Andrew saw active service down in the Falklands. He was put up for a bravery award, and his father got in the way of it. Flying helicopters. And Harry, of course, was pulled out of Afghanistan because a French magazine outed him, said where he was operating, and the Taliban went for him.
Right.
But those two are not serving members of the military, so are not entitled to wear a uniform anymore. If you look at the other one, just so people know, if they listen to this before next week, Monday, everybody wearing uniforms, they're all ceremonial uniforms. They're not entitled to wear uniforms because they're active service. They're ex-active service. That's why you will see Andrew and Harry bow their heads, which is the same as saluting. So just so you know.
What's this got
So-
to do with the question?
So I want to kind of
Well, I neatly
what are we
avoided the
talking
question.
about?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I want to ask you, Kath, because you are probably
Oh, yeah,
the other person that has experience on both sides of the Atlantic, as it were. Like, do you? I feel like personally there's a clamor right now, and I don't know whether or not it's because the Queen has passed, or if it's just where we are within our society, that we're kind of being a little bit more direct with the powers that be to say, hey, you got to answer for your past indiscretions.
You're not making Trump do that, are you?
We're trying.
We?
Yeah, the country.
Yes.
You mean
Yes,
1/3 of
we.
the country, perhaps?
Yeah,
More.
actually.
Justice
More than that.
Department.
No. Put it this way. I think that it is significant that there's a third of the country that's actually trying to do it. So, do you see a
put you
sea
off?
change right now? And
Toward the monarchy?
towards the monarchy. Yeah.
No, not right now,
Uh-huh.
because she's only just died.
Right.
But I think that with the most beloved queen for a long time, just not there anymore, and they're none of them are all that fond of Charles.
Right.
They definitely don't like Camilla. I think that
Homewrecker
the
Camilla?
way has been opened for the monarch. The way has been opened for the for them to abolish the monarchy eventually. I mean, they're not stupid.
So I actually do agree with Jeremy, though, that like there is probably some appeal to the fact that this is a tradition that's thousands of years old, and that there are some people that are going to want to stick to it simply because it's a tradition that's thousands of years old. But yeah, I at least
Sorry, how many years old?
thousands.
Thank you.
I mean, at least a dozen, right? Go for it.
I have to keep reminding myself there's a British person at this table and I need to be polite. So, as a black woman, I am not super duper fond of the monarchy. I love Queen Elizabeth and I think she was an amazing figurehead. No shade on her. But as we're all aware, after the Oprah Meghan Markle debacle and the way that women of color were treated and asked what their children were going to look like, I fully do expect that. I don't think it's going to happen right away, but I do think, and it'll primarily start in majority people of color countries, like the Caribbean areas that they hold and things like that, will pull away from the crown at some point. That's just my expectation.
I think that the only thing that I was going from was a historical perspective, and I was revering her as I did anybody from the World War II era, I guess, and all the things that she did, and it's just a dying generation, and I feel that with them is dying a certain ideal, and some of it's good and some of it's bad, and I guess. I think in a way the thing that intrigues me on the World War II side is that there aren't very many left. I mean, Jeremy, do you know how many are left? I mean, like as far as veterans of World War II.
Very few.
Exactly, right? She was 96 years old, which is a really great longevity. It's just that, and so much that's been seen. There are just a lot of things that have been lost as far as ideas and perspectives of work ethic, and that is part of the good. Part of the bad that's going away is the closed-mindedness. I can see why, I absolutely see why there's another side to, well, maybe we should get rid of the monarchy. I get that. I do. Not to mention revenue and all that stuff that's going on. I don't know. I have really mixed emotions about her. I think that she was just an icon that has, like Jeremy says, always been there. And I feel like it's sad, but I'm also very interested to see how it moves forward. And I don't think that Charles is the one to do it. But he has had some really cool stuff under his belt. I mean, he's very well known for, his activism and his philanthropism in like, the economy and then the climate change and things like that. But I don't know. I think he's still a part of the old school generation.
So, speaking of that, And Jeremy, this is a question for you. I thought
very torn.
the unspoken rule was that Charles was not going to be king because he divorced Diana and married Camilla.
I think he was always going to be king. Now, how long he survives and whether or not he will hand over to William, Prince of Wales, the new Prince of Wales, I don't know. But it's interesting. Ivo's now with us. And, of course, Bulgaria has a royal family.
Yeah.
But it spent the last 50 years or whatever, 60 years, as a communist country from the mid-40s. But King Simeon II, see, he did his homework.
Good job.
Yes, it's coming back because he served as prime minister for 5 years?
That was amazing.
Something like that.
No, shocking.
And countries seem to want to have some sort of a figurehead. I've been asked, and I think there's a question coming up later about does America have
An analog, yeah.
and we'll address that later on in the podcast. But it's, as Kathleen said, Camilla's not a bad person. It's Charles.
I don't know that Diana would say that.
No, but it's Charles who should have had the balls to marry Camilla when he could have done. She would have married him. And in the end, she got fed up with waiting for him. And he's been described by one of the country's best-loved late comedians as a spoilt brat, and I'm sure he is.
Well, I don't
I have
know.
more
I mean,
hopes.
I know I didn't explain myself very well, but it's because I'm very torn between the past and the present, and where we were and where we're going. I mean, does anybody else get what
I
I'm saying?
100% understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Because I say that I'm not a fan of the monarchy, and I mean the monarchy as in the institution. Do I still get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch Meghan Markle and Harry walk down and get married? Yeah, I do. Okay, not but I mean the monarchy as an institution. It's kind of like when she was talking about, Meghan Markle was talking about in that interview. She made it a point to say the institution of the crown, so the management and the inner workings of how it is set up. That's why I kind of can separate easily Queen Elizabeth and Prince Charles and all of that from it is a business that is being maintained by a PR
Did you
department.
just call the king Prince Charles?
It's okay. I don't live
Charles the Third.
there. And I'm not, and this is not a Commonwealth.
the
so
king.
Just letting you.
But
Again,
No,
Meredith,
he's Chucky
Hail.
3. Chucky
There you
3.
go. There you go. I'm more excited for William, to be quite honest with you. So I feel like he's probably going to be moving more. But I do agree the prompt, the circumstance, and all of that. It's all fun, but she has no power either. She's basically like the world's. Not she. The monarchy is basically the world's highest paid influencer. Essentially, really is what it is. So I don't know.
Andre's with us today. Good on Andre. And he always
Andre.
has something sensible to say.
How did you feel when the
Doesn't
queen
have a
died?
microphone.
So
Andre,
be,
have a
be
microphone,
careful because the monarchs, they're in our blood, we know, right? I did the 23andMe test, and we're not in the same place. But I have a bloodline with Louis XV, and
Most people in the world have a blood.
Marie Antoinette, weirdly, because she was shocked. I don't know how they figure out, but it's on my blood, and I can prove to you. So let them carry on. Be careful,
So,
mates. Or
Andre,
people.
how did you feel when your great-great-great aunt, Queen Elizabeth II, passed away?
Oh, where was I? I was in journalism class. I think I was in journalism class.
And
What-
they all immediately burst into tears.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was, I forgot. Someone was like, oh, did you know no. Someone was like, oh, did you hear the queen died? And I was like, I didn't think they were being serious because I didn't think she could ever die. And then I had to look it up and I was like, there's no way that's real. So then I went on Instagram and Instagram confirmed that it was real. So it must have
Yes,
been true.
Instagram, the source for solid
Yes.
knowledge.
Instagram and Twitter. And I don't know. It was a little shocking. I remember thinking about Miss Lewis, my old violin teacher, who was really old and stuck around very long. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like that. But I don't know. just like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Eva is the only other European. Well, Alena is sort of European.
Yeah, and
European-ish.
but yeah, to me,
And quite scary sometimes when you don't know she's
Yeah.
coming.
Obviously, the connotations of the monarchy and its colonial past are very negative. But that being said, constitutional monarchy is something different. And the queen and the monarchs nowadays represent something very, very different, specifically in the United Kingdom. They represent stability, service to the country, dignity, continuity, and representation of the character of the country. Notice that these are all things that nowadays are missing in most of societies. Stability, dignity, service to the country, representation, and I feel that the gravity of the office of the monarch of the palace is such that it is conditioning the current monarchs, and like William and Harry. Notice how much they've worked on their character, where they went to war zones, how much service they provided to their country. Charles was a huge advocate for protection of the climate for the last 20 years, and has done enormous amount of work to advocate against climate change. And I feel like it's a positive thing, and I think this is why the British people are so attached to the Queen, because she represented the country the right way. She sacrificed a lot. She was incredibly brave during World War II, and the entire royal family was very brave. They refused to flee. They stayed during the bombardment of London, where their life was in danger. She served as a mechanic during World War II, and very skilled one at that. And like I said, stability, continuity, and dignity. Then you guys realize this woman reigned as a queen for roughly 1/3 of the existence of the United States of America. Does that tell you how young this country is here and how long this woman has reigned as a monarch? It's pretty impressive. That being said, it's rare, very rare nowadays in any country that has monarchy to find somebody like this. Usually when you have this kind of position and you're adored, and this adulation breeds narcissism, and you don't have to look far. I mean, look at Prince Albert, and look at some of the royal family that got corrupted by the opportunities that it has given them. So to me, though, it's a positive thing, and I feel like constitutional monarchy has its place, especially in Great Britain. And to me, it was sad, and she was one of these people that you don't feel will ever go away. 96 years old, it's the most normal thing to pass on. But then she's such a constant. We've never lived. I mean, Jeremy is the oldest person here, and he has never lived one second of his life. You are, but both of you have never lived 1 second of your life without Queen Elizabeth. She was just an ever-present person, and was like an embodiment of stability. So I really appreciate her.
Alena.
Yeah.
So very oddly enough, I have a lot of thoughts about this. As someone who doesn't really follow the royal family too closely, but I've read a lot of historical information. I think that, for one thing, it is a pretty big testament to Queen Elizabeth's life, that it's her death that is making us rethink the monarchy as something that should exist at all. I think that she is really one of the main people within that institution that decided to become a real political leader. And a lot of these people, they have an option to sort of live in luxury and just enjoy life and do absolutely nothing but go crazy on substances and cheat on Camilla and do all this sorts of crazy stuff. And she's really the only person within the monarchy that for the longest time took her position seriously and took it seriously that she was a real political leader in that nation. I think that the monarchy as an institution, people don't want it to exist, because the idea that you're just born into a position of severe political power seems unfair. to the rest of the populace,
Antiquated.
and
Be awesome. I
antiquated
wish
for
it
the
was
rest
there.
of the populace who is scraping by just to survive, and a lot of them are trying. Some people are trying to get into parliament. Some people are trying to become MPs, and then they have this entire kind of hereditary system that's pushing against them all the time. And some of them don't know what they're doing. Really, Queen Elizabeth was one of the only ones that really knew what she was doing. So that can be frustrating, but I do think we have monarchies in a sense in the U.S., like we have the Kennedy family, and I don't have a problem with the
Aren't
Kennedy
most of
family.
them dead now?
Almost all of them. They still have brothers and cousins, and there was a
I'm
Kennedy.
fully aware. That was a joke. That was fully
Yeah.
aware.
I heard that Junior is gonna try to be vice for Trump. I heard,
JFK Jr. is still alive.
Yeah, it's still
I
alive.
mean, yeah.
Indeed.
But the difference, I would say, between something like the Kennedy family and the monarchy is that, yeah, they're a political family, but they get elected into office. I mean, they're trained from an early age to do so, but that doesn't mean that they were just born into it, and some of them decide not to be in office. And it would be kind of rough to be born into a family and have to be in political office. So it's bad for them. It's bad for the kids in those families, too, I think, in a way. Like,
And she wasn't even meant to be there. She wasn't even supposed to be there. And she gave up her entire life, just like her father did.
Well, here's the thing. I do take a bit of umbrage with the concept that she was the only one in the family who took political responsibility seriously. First of all, there wasn't choice for anyone else in the family to take political responsibility serious. She was the heir apparent, or heir presumptive. I apologize. But also, though, like, it's not that her father didn't take his job seriously. He just also took the woman that he loved seriously as well and left for Wallace Simpson. So when I'm faced with a choice to choose between who I love, or I apologize, her uncle. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I'm so sorry. But I would be faced with a choice to say, I can either do this or I can either live the rest of my life happy with the person I want to live it with. I think that it would be narrow-minded at best to say that they chose to ignore their political responsibility. I think that's a very difficult.
At risk of just a couple of things that I think have to be said. One is the Queen, if she was here now, would say, but my dear, I was not a political leader.
She would, yes.
She would say that. And secondly, she was going to be Queen. So when King Edward abdicated because he wanted to marry Wallace Simpson, it was very unlikely they were going to have children. She was a lot older, you know, and so it.
But it wasn't to happen so quickly.
It would have, and remember that the Queen outlived her father.
Yeah.
And so, what would have happened would have been that she would have ended up the Queen. There wasn't anybody else to be king or queen. She was next in line, so she was going to be Queen. And I don't want to make this all about Jeremy defending the royal family, because the Queen treated people very differently to the way that her children treat people. And I can't say that I have close experience, but I know people who do. And, you know, it's yeah. And Monday, you know, like you, I will be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'll watch the funeral, and I'll think it's very sad, and wish King Charles, you know, the best, and I hope he does well. And I think, to round this part of the podcast up, I think you will see him slim down the monarchy greatly. The people in the monarchy, you know, the serving royals, as I say, the members of the firm. I think you'll see them slim down dramatically. Now, just before we finish, I want to ask Cassidy if she's got anything she wants to add.
Okay, so obviously, the only English royal British person that I've known is
I'm royal too, but not English.
Don't take away Fernando's crown.
okay. Since I am 13, I've only known Queen Elizabeth, but I do really like Princess Diana, and I was in math class when I found out. And people were saying, like,
do you really mean Princess Diana, or do you mean somebody else?
I mean Princess Diana. So I was in math class when I found out, and then I checked Twitter and I was like, oh, that really happened. It was kind of shocking.
Did you tell them what you texted me?
Oh right, I texted my mom. I was like,
Did you cry?
The Queen died.
Did you cry?
No.
Okay.
But I was just really shocked.
Oh,
And
what did
my
you
mom said, back, she said, I've been waiting for her to die all morning.
Okay, now that sounds bad, but in my defense, I was watching news coverage waiting for the announcement. I was not like wishing ill.
Wow,
So
that
you were
was
saying I'm not shocked. I've been watching.
Wow.
Yes, I
So
had been
do
watching
you,
all
do
morning.
you think that Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is going to be a major influencer here in America?
She always has been. She's been on. I mean, she's been a celebrity for a long time, and she was. I mean, I think even from one of the earliest things I saw of her was it was on the news when we were younger. Was her requesting that less women be shown in advertisements for cleaning products because she felt it was sexist. I mean, she's always been a very serious.
Gotta be
person
honest,
in
had
this
no
nation.
idea who she was till she married Prince Harry.
Me too.
Sorry. I had no clue.
All right, let's move on. Let's see.
Thank you.
Again, I'm sorry. There's another English question,
Oh gosh.
which is easily answered with the word no. Should Britain? I've been asked. Should Britain give back the Kohinoor diamond? Kohinoor diamond. It's part of the crown jewels. It's the major jewel in the royal crown. India and incidentally Pakistan have formally requested in the past, and there is a growing social media movement to have them returned.
Yes,
Not-
yes.
not-
I was like, only because we've already figured out what Jeremy's opinion is.
Okay,
A
so you
resounding
guys, my favorite movie is Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and Marilyn Monroe and Diamonds. Okay,
I thought
keep
it
your
was-
jewels. Okay, it's been 700 some odd years. They done got over it. They're fine.
I thought it was Princess Bride.
Okay, let's try and keep this in one place. So, you you think they should keep the jewel, right? Fernando, what do you think as
Well,
French royalty?
I think it'd be good for go that path and start to think about the reparations. What's that prince, whatever that is Meredith with the actor, that guy. They went some trip on the Caribbean, got pretty weird. Like the nation by itself. Which one of the Dominican Republic or something that they even put like they need to do reparation of. That's the question, right? Is that about the?
That's all right. Andre, do you have a thought about the jewels that the royal family have acquired over the years? Should they give them back?
I don't think it's really that deep. I feel like if they really need it, if they feel that it's necessary that they must have this jewel back, then you could just give it to them. Or I don't know how much it costs, but I feel like the royal family might have some money. You could give them back some money or whatever for the jewel, whatever. But I don't know. I just don't think it's that serious of a topic right now, at least.
I'd like to point out that do you give it to Pakistan or India?
Yeah, I mean that's a serious
Oh.
question because they're
Very-
dueling. I mean they've been
I
warring
have no
forever.
clue.
They're both nuclear powers, right? They both hate each other, right? And they both claiming it. So
And this
who'd
is why you don't give it back.
Who'd you give it
Piss
to?
off, we're keeping it.
Because if
Yeah.
you give it to Pakistan, then you have a
So
huge
then
problem
just keep
with
it.
India. If you give it to India, then they have a huge problem with
Okay,
Pakistan.
have
Yeah,
a
I don't
solution.
have. I don't think
have
it's that
complete
big of a deal.
solution. You drop
goes
it
Solomon.
from an airplane over the middle of the Atlantic.
That's a terrible idea. Again, diamonds.
It's just a rock.
Yeah, okay, to you, that's fine. Listen, I understand the socio-political ramifications of them wanting this thing back. I don't. But I'm going to tell you, you give me an engagement ring, I'm keeping it. I feel like that's an engagement ring. It's over. It's long in the past.
Well, even if you break it off.
Yes, it's my ring. It stays on my finger. See my lovely Tiffany necklace from my ex-boyfriend?
Gave
Mm-hmm,
it
sure enough.
to the UK. The UK took it.
Listen, these are really
How long ago?
specific terms of how two people hooked up. But what matters is that they're together now.
Lewis.
So I feel like the symbolism of the diamond means that it should go back, period. But I don't know how to deal with the geopolitical ramifications. I don't know if it goes back to India or to Pakistan. England would have good reason to give it to Pakistan. They would also have good reason to give it to India. I think maybe I'm most in line with your idea, Kath. Potentially not just dropping it into the Atlantic, but maybe finding some utility for that gem, and
What utility can you find?
I don't know.
And does it have any other purpose besides wealth? I mean, what is the symbolism behind it? So I'm just saying.
What is the
This is one of the
symbol?
reasons why I'm not that invested in this conversation, because it is jewelry, yes, whatever.
Right.
But like, I feel like I would feel differently if it was like an artifact. And
Exactly.
I understand the arguments that could be made for an artifact, and then that's when the bleak side for me.
Yeah.
hits.
Does
I
that
think
have
that-
something to do with the like? Is there
I
a
think
religious
both India and Pakistan view it more as an artifact than the value. Yeah, definitely.
But interestingly, you see, America is only a young country, as Eva was pointing out just a minute ago. It's been around for a couple of hundred years, and that's about it. And I'm sure
to change your diaper, Lou?
there are plenty of things in America, in all sorts of museums and everything else, that could be said to belong to other people, not least Jewish Germans who lost artwork during the Second World War that was bought by very wealthy Americans, who now will not give them back. So a lot of this, I think, is about, well, you know, you need to tidy your own porch before you start having a go at the UK's porch. You know, I
Really,
think.
truthfully, like maybe I just don't understand the whole like, did they go in there and just take it? Like I don't I don't
Yes.
understand the history of the
Yeah,
diamond.
but then you also
Yes.
have a thing called the Elgin marbles, which
well, they went in and took
came from-
slaves, and then you
came-
taking me back to Africa.
It was a part of the colonialism.
but
They
we've
just-
offered.
Wow, that could go a lot of ways, Jeremy. I'm gonna let you slide on that one.
Well, Lewis, we
So,
bought you a ticket. I know.
well, people keep trying to get me to go other places. It's just never going to
He
happen.
just wouldn't go.
So I'm going to push back a little
which,
bit.
Which I just want to go on, just for shit and giggles,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are an awful lot of people who get very upset about the fact that they're in America and their great-grandparents came from Africa. But if someone said, that's okay, we'll relocate you back to Africa in the middle of the jungle, and as opposed to
Jeremy,
living
you
in
do
There are
not
cities,
know
though,
what
now.
sort of
No,
mess
silly.
you are stepping
Silly.
in. At all. Jesus, just don't do that.
So pushing back on the whole museum thing, there are some, I believe we had the question here, or the topic here a few weeks ago about the law that was just passed in New York that essentially said, at the very least, we have to credit the culture that these artifacts come from. Specifically, like, if you've got a Nazi treasure, like, you've got to acknowledge within the display itself that this is part of a Nazi grab, a Nazi theft, essentially.
That makes all the difference. Just putting it in the Bible.
Well,
Yeah.
it definitely makes a bigger difference than having this diamond be the symbol of the royalty of your country without any indication that it was literally stolen from another country. Like there's a part of this that is without question symbolic, meaning there's no way to recompense the Indian people or the Pakistani people for the past injustices. And that's one of the things that we get locked into as a people, like wanting to know that, like, you're engaged in some kind of act of contrition that shows that you're sorry for what you did. But that's not necessarily what this is about. This is about, like, this is actually like a piece of wealth that was taken from this country that England has used and they are continuing to use. It's not like they've retired the crown. Like, it's still part of the crown. And I don't know that India or Pakistan is saying, you owe us this, as much as they're saying stop using this thing that you took from us as like a show of your power, because that's what it is right now. And so there's I don't know if they should give the goddamn thing back. Like, I don't know if it's possible to give it back. That's what I was trying to say earlier. The idea is, like, there has not yet been an acknowledgement that there was some shady shit that was going on in the past.
So, but here's my thing. So if I'm a jewel thief and I go and I steal your diamonds out your house.
Hold on, I can't hear you.
And I said,
oh, there you go.
if I'm a jewel thief and I go in your house and I steal your diamonds, and I bequeath them to my great grandchildren, is my great grandchild required to give you back the diamond that I stole from you?
There's a whole lot of legal stuff.
Hold on though, but it's like, this is my thing. Like, we're like expecting this sort of great contrition, and I understand that there were multiple things that were gone in and stolen. I mean, but like, let's be real about this. This is like a universal problem, like with the entire history of the world.
I agree.
And like, I feel like when you got that big a diamond, it's going to make it a little harder for me to step up and be the bigger person in that situation. That's all I'm saying.
I've had a my brother does listen to this podcast. I've had a difficulty with my brother for many, many years because he owes me £1 million. Okay? He owes me £1 million.
Did you bet him you could hold your breath?
He can pay me as an act of contrition.
I bet him that my grandfather's chauffeur would be at home when we got home. And he wasn't. And my brother has never paid up, should he?
I'm willing to work as a broker between the two of you. Now, if you don't know my whereabouts after he pays me, that's on you.
I have some thoughts about this. I mean, one, my thought is it's a diamond. It's priced at that price because that's the way diamond markets work. It's not really worth anything. My other thought is, yeah, absolutely. India in particular is due to a lot of reparations from England during World War II, when Queen Elizabeth and Churchill really were working together to end the Jewish genocide. There was also another serious genocide being enacted in India, primarily by the English government, and a lot of Indian people died due to reasons of colonialization. But also, my thought is, like, if I think about it on a smaller level, on a metaphorical level, if I lost my entire family to anything, and then the next day somebody gave me a huge diamond, I wouldn't give a shit about the diamond. You know, like, it's almost, to me, it's a slap in the face. If you kill an entire area of people, you don't turn around and give them money. That's not what makes it better. And
what if it's their money though?
If it's their money, but the other thing is they're giving it to the government. They're not going to give it. It's not like the government is going to get that diamond, liquidate it into cash, and give it to the victims of the Indian genocide.
Precisely my point. Why you keep the diamond.
Moving on, next question. And I'm sorry about this. There seems to be an awful lot, America, Queen, yada, yada, yada. So let's do this quickly if we can, and we'll move on to a couple more things. Is there an American analogue to the Queen's passing? I.e., is there a public figure whose death would cause the country to go into mourning? How about the panel members? What do the panel members think? And the first person who says Kardashian will never be allowed back on this.
Kardashian.
Look, there's one person who's already passed on that has caused a large proportion of this country to cry. Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, it's true.
Actually, she's not even the only one. I mean,
royalty.
I don't think we have anybody really at the moment that would cause that necessarily of a national stir, but we've definitely had people. I mean,
Beyonce.
The Kennedys going back. I don't know about that. I'm not a. Sorry, Beehive, don't come for me, but I'm not a fan. I think we've had people. The Kennedys. I mean, the Camelot, the Roosevelt. Bobby Kennedy. Even when he died, I mean, the train went through the entire country, and the entire country mourned. Martin Luther King Jr. We've had people that have had those kind of followings. We're a little hard-pressed to find that in this country in the current environment.
Why do you think that is?
I read this question,
Trump?
and I just want to put this to you. Okay. You don't have a somebody, but I think you as Americans do have a somebodies.
How do you mean?
And that is, it seemed to me that the one thing that has stopped this country dead in its tracks was 9/11. That is the only time I've seen my wife, when it happened, she sat on the couch and tears rolling down her face and said, "My poor America." And I can't imagine Kathleen saying that, but she did. And it's the only thing I can think that's united the country in grief. And people have asked me a lot of times, well, what's going on? And the country, generally speaking, is united in grief. But I don't think there's anybody currently who would stop this country dead in its tracks.
That makes a lot of sense, because it's like we seem to be all cool with attacking each other, but when somebody else attacks us, that's when we are like, motherfucker. Oh, yeah. It was such a big to do. I will never forget it, ever. Not in a million years.
Well, that's because I can talk about my mom, but you can't talk about my
Right,
mom.
right.
That's how we act in America.
You will not touch me! People have often said, you can say what you like about the Queen, and you can attack our Navy unless you need them, but you kick our dog, and then you're in deep shit.
Can I guess Andre's answer to this?
Yeah, can we move on?
Tom Brady. Am I right?
7 Super Bowls. What are you getting?
Andre, you just became my favorite person on the podcast. Amen.
7 crowns.
7, and he's still going.
He's a monarch. 7 crowns.
You could
Playing football?
you could
About
perform a
that.
Isn't there
trade.
something along those lines?
Just one
Yeah.
of his Super Bowl rings for that.
Go sports ball.
Andre, I freaking love you right now. Will you be my child?
Yeah.
I have a thought. I don't know if there's anyone currently, but I do know that when Robin Williams died, a couple days afterward, I was talking to my therapist, and I didn't even connect these two things, but I was having a lot of very severe, sad thoughts. And she said, I've had 15 people come in this week, and it all has to do with Robin Williams. She was like, he was really America's dad in all of those movies.
Yeah.
And a lot of people felt really low after that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of change the mood of America's Dad. Cosby was America's dad. So
Yes.
As a matter of fact, he was.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
like, sorry.
and for me, that person was Prince. Like, I was not in tune with how debilitatingly sad I was going to be when Prince died.
I mean,
Yeah.
he.
Michael Jackson, too, the icons, ironically enough, for us come a lot from entertainment.
But
weirdly.
with respect, they're icons. They're not going to stop a whole country where
agree.
trains stop and semi-drivers pull over, and the whole place comes to a grinding halt of its own accord.
No, I agree. I probably should have started with that. That I don't think that there's a person that is in this country that fits that mold of
Yeah.
and I am
So there you got
curious.
something honest, Jeremy.
I am curious, Meredith, because I thought about the same thing that you said. Like, in the past, it would have been Kennedy, or it would have been Dr. King, or it would have been any of these other people that we look back on and think of this massive world shift. But my question is it not happening now because we're so divided as a country, or is it not happening now because we all don't? Well, I guess it's kind of the same thing. We don't get our news from the same place anymore. We don't get our message as to what is significant from the same place anymore. And I think maybe for me that might be the difference between us and Britain. You've got a whole country. Sorry, Jeremy. You used to have a whole country that was invested in perpetuating that notion of the magnificence of royalty. We've never had anything like that. And so I don't know, if it was even true that the country would have done it for Kennedy, short of us being told by media and by the news that we needed to do it. And maybe we just don't have that now. These are all questions. These aren't judgments.
Evo.
So
Sorry.
No,
Evo.
go. So first of all, you mentioned Cosby was America's Dad. We didn't get the show in Behind the Iron Curtain, and I binge watched it when I came here. And yes, he wasn't the American Dad, and paradoxically, I watched it at once in about 2 weeks, and it was he ironically he put me to bed every night. Then
I don't think he would think that's ironic at
In
all.
the, in the healthy way.
So there was a man in the United States who was born in the United States during the Depression era, who worked very, very hard, was dirt poor, incredibly poor in the American South. And he was working the fields, and he worked in the cotton fields. And then World War II came, and he volunteered and became a submariner. Risked his life many times, almost died twice in a submarine during the World War. Then he volunteered to, after the World War, to be on the very first nuclear submarine in the world. It was a very dangerous job. There was an incident in Canada long before Chernobyl where a nuclear plant collapsed and leaked a radioactive toxic cloud, and volunteers were needed that were familiar with nuclear reactors. So he volunteered for that too, and helped clean up the nuclear reactor and isolate it, and he survived that. Then he became the governor of Georgia, and then he became president of the United States of America. Then once his mandate was over, he didn't win a second mandate, and he was a president. To me, he was a fantastic president. The things that they blamed him for, he had no control over. But he created the Department of Education. He created the Department of Energy. He installed solar panels on the White House in the 1970s. He wore a sweater in the White House because it was too cold, because the solar panels weren't working properly. He wore a sweater throughout his presidency. Then his presidency was over and he got busy. He started working after that. He became maybe the most incredible volunteer in the history of the United States of America. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. He traveled the world, went to every conflict zone, and was a peacemaker. There's an ancient enemy of mankind. It's called the guinea worm that has existed ever since humans have existed. It was a horrific disease. It's a parasitic disease that was in northern Africa. Millions and millions of people throughout history have suffered from it. It's horrible. It gets into your system through drinking water. Then a worm starts developing in your body and exits your body through your leg, and it's usually 3 feet long, and it's an excruciating pain. And he said, I'm going to eradicate this disease. And sure enough, he started a foundation that eradicated this disease. It was the very first disease that was completely destroyed by mankind. It doesn't exist anymore. He then started building houses for the poor in Habitat for Humanity, built houses for years and years and years. He developed cancer at the age of 90, brain cancer. They gave him 3 weeks to live. After the diagnosis, the next day he was building houses for Habitat of Humanity. A few weeks ago, he turned 98. To me, this is the only political royalty we have, and I hope Jimmy Carter lives to be 100.
Jimmy Carter.
Yeah. He's 98 years old. Yeah.
I mean, I do respect Jimmy Carter, all due respect. I will say this, though. Back to your question, when you said that I don't know that there's anybody right now, I think that there's a difference between, like, the Queen is revered and loved now, right, and she's no longer with us. But let's not forget that when Martin Luther King Jr. died, he was not loved by all. And so you're not going to come across a figure that is absolutely loved and adored by the entire country. I'm sure there's people in Britain who don't appreciate or love the Queen. But, like, I do think that there are people who are in the process of building their legacies that will be remembered. And yes, Jimmy Carter is awesome. Yeah. But there are people who are still in the process of building their legacies to earn that. Because when I sit here and I think to myself, well, John Lewis to me strikes as somebody that would make me stop and mourn. However, John Lewis is not necessarily appreciated by all of the people that should really respect his legacy. Barack Obama is another who is still building his legacy, like one of the most popular presidents in recent history. So I think that, yes, Jimmy Carter, but I think there are people that are still in the processes of building their legacies that would make the country actually stop and
Let's move.
No.
Let's move on.
Zendaya.
Zendaya. But you know, Obama and Michelle Obama actually are in the process of building their legacy. I hope they get more engaged, just like Jimmy Carter did after the presidency. I forgot to tell you guys, Jimmy Carter fell while he was battling cancer. He had like many bruises on his face. The next day, with bruises and bandages, he was building houses. And I gotta tell you, I went to Plains, Georgia. This place is in the middle of nowhere. I swear, there's nothing there. The main street is only on one side. There's stores, and you can literally, if you have ever swam in your life, you can catch your breath, and without breathing, you can pass the main street to the end without taking another breath. So that's how small the city. He lives in a small house. There's a SUV. I went to see his house. There's an SUV parked in front of his house with secret service agents that costs twice as much as his house. He built the house himself in 1983 with his own hands. He builds furniture. This guy is absolutely incredible. This to me is true political royalty. I don't know if the political class,
from a certain generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Current
I know
political
there are
class doesn't
bad
have
things,
these kind of
but there
people.
are always good things too. I mean, he has.
With the Queen and with someone like Carter, what I think is lacking with Carter is, with the Queen, it's about respect and calmness and so on. With Jimmy Carter, who will die in the next few years,
You're not gonna die.
he
Don't die, it's inevitable.
you're going to immediately have people who will disrespect him.
Yes,
They're
of
not
course.
going to listen to
Of
what
course.
you've said.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that happened to Queen Elizabeth.
yeah.
You might not have seen it. I saw it on my.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah.
Rosalind Carter, she's still alive. They've been married for 75 years. That's diamond wedding. They still.
You should have said
people in-
75 fucking years.
People
That's
in planes,
impressive.
and they love each other. People in planes see them holding hands.
I'm like, what happens when
going
you?
to the dollar
What is
store,
the
holding hands to
anniversary
this day.
gift
It's
on
amazing.
70 years?
Well, I did some stuff with
anybody know?
Habitat
'Cause
for
nobody ever
Humanity,
fucking makes it
and
that
one of the things that stories come back is Habitat's issues with the Secret Service, who will not allow the ex-president, to climb on roofs. And when he was younger,
Yeah.
he wanted to be up on the roof,
course.
nailing and what have you.
They won't let
And
us.
it's driving Miss Daisy, what have you. So let's move on from the Queen and everybody else. A question I've been asked, is what is one thing only? What is the nicest thing that has ever happened to you? What is the nicest thing that has ever happened to you, Cassidy? One thing only.
One time, my friend gave me $100 after I broke something of his.
Of his.
Why did he?
Wait, what? You broke it and he gave you $100 because you were sad, or?
Well, there was a lot more in the middle, but I just wanted to keep it short and
Okay, someone gave you $100.
That's fantastic.
All right, Alena.
Okay, this is a weird memory, but okay, so I was living in Chicago, Illinois, and in a bigger city there, especially in the States, there's this culture where women get yelled at on the streets a lot. If you've lived in a big city, especially like a tight urban environment, you walk down the street and you could look like shit, and 50 men will yell at you. And it is really stressful. It is really stressful. And eventually, you eventually, don't you know it, Dad? Eventually, you block it out and you forget about it, and it's like a normal part of your everyday life that people like proposition you on the street. So, one day I'm walking to the train platform, and I was so stressed out, and I was just tired, and I was tired of everything, but especially the constant yelling. And I started singing this song under my breath. People are going to think I'm crazy. It was like, I don't want no scrubs. A scrub is a guy who can't get no love from me. Screaming out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. And so I started singing that song. And this woman is standing across from me, and she goes, "That's TLC, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's TLC." And then she goes, "I feel the same way, babe." And then she starts singing it with me. That was the nicest thing that ever happened to me. I was in basically a musical on the train platform in Chicago. It was incredible, and like finally it felt like we were saying out loud what had been bothering us this whole time, and it was solidarity. It was solidarity in the middle of the city.
Andre, what's the nicest thing
Field goal.
that has ever happened to you? What is the nicest single so far in your life? What is the nicest thing that's happened to you?
I don't know. Lots of nice things happen to nice
you
people.
can only have one.
So naturally, I get a lot of nice things happening to me.
Naturally, yeah.
Lord.
Yeah, but I don't know. I would say the most recent memorable nice thing was like when I came to LHS. I didn't like. I mean, I knew some people, but a lot more people knew me than I knew. Like I was kind of like lost-ish for our first few days, and then in my weights class, this guy Jack, who I'd never talked to before, asked me to be in his lifting group, and now he's one of my best friends. So that was a cool thing.
Cool. What about Fernando?
Gosh, I had like a similar story.
So you were in a lifting weights group?
No,
was
not
it?
really.
No.
But well, I mean, I don't know, small things like so my son, like once upon a time, he said, "You're the best father in the universe."
You can only have one thing.
It was planet or universe? And I mean, that was it. And then and then he say again and again. And I mean, that was
keeps coming
fulfill me.
back.
I know it wasn't true. I know it isn't.
It wasn't
It's not
the
true.
time.
But I mean, he just was one of the best things.
Jane, what's the best thing that's ever happened to you?
The
The
best
nicest thing that's
I'll
ever
try to
happened
keep it as short as possible, but basically I was a single parent. I went to visit my dad, and I had my kids with me, and they were both under the age of 4th grade. And I didn't have a lot of money, and we stopped halfway back to our destination, and I only had a certain amount of money, and we stopped to have some pizza, breadsticks. And, my kid wanted something else, and I'm like, girls, I've only got such and such amount of money. And when I got up to go pay, somebody had already paid for my food because they had overheard my conversation. And I was like, sorry, what? Oh, no, the pastor so-and-so overheard your conversation, and they paid your meal. And I was like, oh, my God. It was so sad and so cool all at the same time. It was just amazing.
Random act of kindness.
Yeah, it was a random act of kindness.
Evo, what's the best thing, nicest, not the best, the nicest thing that's ever happened to you?
Sitting to the left of me.
Oh, love!
She's so pretty. She's a good girl.
He's not here.
First child is shocking. It's like incredible feeling. Incredible feeling. It's
I'm
just
not
I
gonna say
I can't describe it. I have many amazing things that are gonna be like I don't want to brag and stuff, but having Alena come to this world and that moment is indescribable. Yeah, indescribable. So that's it for me. Nothing will ever match it.
Meredith.
So now I can't say my thing.
I
Thanks
can
a
win
lot
the
for making me
Nobel
look like a
Prize,
chump
but
as a
it's-
single
yeah.
mom, because I'm not going to say her. Just going to keep it real.
It's all good. It's all good.
I love you to death. You may be the best thing that's ever happened to me, but not necessarily the nicest. For everyone who was sitting here before we got started. But no, the nicest thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm going to try to say this without crying. If you know me well enough to know me, you know that my family and then my chosen family is probably more important to me than anything else in this entire world. So that being said, when I was 23 years old, I was the victim of another domestic violence situation with a boyfriend that I was with, and I called my parents. I was 6 hours away from home. I had my parents had no money to get me home, and my baby brother had been saving for his first car, and my mom got off the phone with me after finding out I was in the hospital, and she was just upset, and she was like, we have no way to get her. And my brother said, take me to the bank, and he took out every dime of what he had saved for his car and paid for the trip to come and get me at 15 years old. So that's the nicest thing that's ever happened to me.
Did you?
Bless him.
Bless him. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Did he get his car?
Yes, we did get him a car.
Kathleen, what's the nicest thing that's ever happened to you?
Well, I worked in politics in the UK. I was in a fairly shitty marriage at the time. And I met a man there who saw me as a talented and nice human being and got to know me.
So you had another
beautiful.
marriage
Who's that
before
guy?
Jeremy?
Yes. Jeremy, I think, is the nicest.
He's a very kind individual.
Love it.
And I will continue to say that if he brings me chocolate biscuit cake.
Oh yeah.
Lewis, what is the nicest thing that's ever happened to you?
I don't know. I kind of batted around this idea, and I'll tell you what came to mind first, because that was really was what I came to mind first. When I was in high school, senior year, my home life blew up, like to the point where I was kind of living on my own by the time I started my senior year, and I was didn't have any money, didn't have a job yet. My high school principal basically took me aside one day and was like, "Hey, you got a job?" I said, no job. I got an interview for a job." He's like, "You got a suit?" No, don't have a suit. I was just gonna wear, probably what I had on at the time. And he and I then went to the big department store, like in the area, and he bought me a suit. And we talked as we were buying the suit about the importance of making a proper presentation when you are, trying to move up in the world. And it was the combination of him. Now you're going to make me start with him spending the time to do that and the money simultaneously. Yeah, that's definitely in the top three. Probably number 2, and I'm going to do more than 2, is when my buddy let me stay at his house for 6 months when my marriage blew up too.
But we're only allowed one.
My house is your house, Mi casa, su casa.
You guys are the best friends in the world.
I always wanted a brother, and I have one. So.
For me,
you,
Jeremy, the host, I would have said the sort of the opposite of what Kathleen said when she said yes on a railway station in London. But one of the other nicest things, I think, was with regard to Lewis, actually. One of the nicest things that happened today was when Lewis told us that he had passed his bar exams. What's important?
Not like we didn't know you were gonna do it.
And what?
On a first try.
First try on the
First try.
first time on the 17th attempt. No.
Why is he so
But
talented?
the important thing about this is that Lewis is a dad with 2 kids. He's had a full career, and he is late to school. Let's put it like that. He has gone to school
I'm
late
old, is
on
what
in
he's
life.
I thought he was gonna say he is brilliant.
And he is now subject to background checks, and I have in fact had a telephone interview with the Department of Justice today about Lewis.
Nice.
I think it's going to be okay.
I just want to mention that there is, you guys need to reflect on this. There is a Ritz-Carlton in London, but Jeremy says, no, rail station is a good place for a proposal. Rail station. She said yes.
Well,
It's the romance and the spontaneity, okay?
fucking Simeon.
Fucking guy.
I hope he dies in a Russian gulag. I was trying to be nice about the Bulgarians. And so
No
I
comment.
hardly dare ask, because we've had such a lot of trouble with the woman. I think she should be, anyway, it's
the
time
queen.
to let it go.
Susan.
Susan, what's the
The
situation
good
with
old Susan, man. You never know.
Susan
what's
from
going
marketing?
on.
Has she actually managed to do something this week?
You never know. You never know. But I have a note that says something here. Let's see.
8 pages.
Well, it says today. Wow, Susan has done work this time. She says today we have a definitive first, guys. An actual relationship advisor is sponsoring us, and apparently she has a nationally syndicated relationship advice column called "The Melania from Slovenia." Subtitle, no. And guess what, guys? This is a big surprise. Once again, our benefactor is here in the pub to sponsor us in person. Welcome to Wednesday Night Undressed. Melania from Slovenia. Melania from Slovenia is in the house. Hello. It is me, Melania from Slovenia, in the house. Urpa, durpa, tekeze, mekeze, Petraska mania, it is Grupski Slonski, Slovanskaya Melania. Yeah! This is a little folksy song from my beautiful homeland of Slovenia. One of the biggest exporters of trophy wives in the world. Oh, podcasters! Wednesday Night Undressed! Why do I sponsor you? Why am I here in this simmering, noxious landfill called Murph's Pub? This place is dirtier than my husband's tiny mouth. Well, it was indeed my lovely husband, Donny, who asked me to come to your podcast and bring these top secret documents. Yes, right here. He said no one will ever find them or hear about them again if they end up on Wednesday Night Undressed. It is a black hole for information. So I sponsor you now. I provide you with 5 old Slovenian dollars, but no real money. I am on a strict budget. Donny doesn't give me money because he says I might buy a sandwich. I have to stay on a diet so I can always weigh 1/4 of him. So I only eat ice cubes, and twice a week I'm allowed to watch Subway commercials. That is how you make marriage work. You must be so skinny so you can hide behind a goalpost on a football field. That is right. The Melania from Slovenia knows how to make relationships work. So I will sponsor you by giving relationship advice for free. Go ahead. Ask me relationship questions.
Melania from Slovenia. How do I maintain a long-term relationship with my partner? Should I make compromises in order to strengthen our bond?
No.
First
of all, it is very important that you never sleep in separate rooms. You must always sleep in separate countries. Or if you are in America, sleep in separate states. Then find a Dumbo porno actress for your body double in bed. You can find them on Pornhub. I call those kamikazes. Also, long-term relationships are stupid. Like my old friend Anna Nicole Smith said, marry a man in his 80s and happiness will follow in the footsteps of the Grim Reaper. But you know, you must be careful not to marry a long-living exotic Australian lizard like Rupert Murdoch. Or you will be stuck in a reptilian nightmare. The Melania from Slovenia says,
No long-term relationships? No. I prefer short-terminal relationships.
Melania from Slovenia, I have a question. I've always wanted to find my soulmate, someone I can fall in love with. How do I find such a dream partner?
No. You silly monkey! To discover your soulmate, you must first become an Eastern European supermodel with chiseled
start
cheekbones.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Also, you must only smile when you're alone in a dark closet. Then you must find a place where there are many billionaires, like Republican Convention, or a fundraiser for Alex Jones's legal bills. Some people call it relationships. I call it relationship. Then you must sing a Slovenian traditional mating song.
Okay.
Kički, proski, kuptici, ala bala bala, rutkički, ala laha laha laha, pusti kosti palički. If he's dumb and you're a bitch, one day you'll be very rich. If he was 30 when you were 5, you're the perfect trophy wife.
Hi, Melania from Slovenia. I have a question that doesn't have anything to do with relationships. How come your English is so bad? Haven't you lived here almost 30 years and shouldn't you be speaking better now?
No. Who are you to be talking to me, you indigent rodent? Listen to me. I eat endangered Polynesian lobsters and then immediately vomit them in a golden toilet. It flushes with Evian water from an Icelandic glacier, you mongrel. Who are you to question my English? Go back to Aldi's, you smelly chupacabra. I hear they have a sale on government cheese.
Okay, hi, Melania from Slovenia. I also have a question. Is your husband naturally blonde? I think you, of all people, should know.
No. Do the drapery match the carpet, you ask? The Melania from Slovenia doesn't know. I did have sexy sex with Donnie one time, but I was unconscious, of course.
One time.
I have seen him nude in the morning, but then I immediately erase it from my memory. My psychiatrist says it's the best strategy to avoid PTSD. Anyway, nobody knows about the drapery, though, because his double quarter pounder with cheese belly covers it completely.
Wow.
If I have to guess, though, he's a natural blonde, because I suspect that his beautiful Goldilocks in the drapery are recycled individual hairs from the carpentry.
Hi, Melania from Slovenia. What are the physical traits that attract you to your partner? Is it his hands?
Huge.
No. I love his elegant neckline. I also find his boobies very attractive when they jiggle in the breeze. Another sexy part are his warm, cozy chins. I like to snuggle inside them in the cold winter days.
Hi, Melania from Slovenia. How should I stay attractive for my partner? Should I exercise all the time?
No. no. Don't be an imbecile. Exercise is bad for your skin. Anorexia all the way. In fact, I put the A-no in anorexia.
Melania from Slovenia. I have an issue with my partner. He's cheating on me. And I sometimes feel like killing the fucker. So, what should I do? And should I go through with it?
Yes. But this is not a question for the Melania from Slovenia. This is a question for my colleague, the Melania from Transylvania. I will give you her number.
Hi, Melania from Slovenia. Big fan of yours. I have a non-relationship question. What is the best way to vote in the upcoming elections? Should I vote in person?
No. I think it is best to vote like me and my husband, Donny, by mail. He does it all by mail, not only voting, but even bride ordering.
Hey there, Melania from Slovenia. I have a question. Most first ladies have done their fair share of service to society. How do you see your role as a first lady? Did you invest your time and efforts for the good of the people? Did you help anyone?
No. But I chose a worthy cause. Someone told me bullying is bad, and it reminded me of my favorite songs. Bule bule, bule bule, bule bule, bule bule, bule bule. That's right. And why is this my favorite song? Because I think bule is short for my favorite thing, bulimia.
You got two diseases now.
So I fought hard to make bulimia great again. You are very welcome, America.
Hey, Melania from Slovenia. I feel like my partner values material things more than me. Should I be worried?
No. My Donny loves me just as much as his diamond-encrusted bidet. And maybe even more. He has material possessions that he cherishes, but I am just as valuable. He says that one day he will even put me behind the glass on his favorite trophy wife case. Anyway, it is time for me to go, assholes! Don't forget to keep these nuclear codes here always in the podcast. Bye-bye. Urpa, durpa, tekize, mekize, urpa, traskamania, it is Grupski Slovski, Slovanskaya, Melania. Yay!
Should we have a word with Susan about her sponsors?
Hey, it's First Lady. It's pretty big.
I suppose. Yeah.
Yes, please put that X in there.
But we want to thank Susan for doing that and all the effort that goes into that. All that remains is for me, Jeremy Taylor, to say thanks for listening, and remember that the 2020s, 21 and now 22 podcasts can be found for download on your favourite Ko-Fi channel. And our producer was not Neil Rasmussen tonight. He's off playing with some other knobs somewhere.
Yes, he is.
But Lewis has been standing in, and again we want to thank the team, Jane,
Hello.
Andre, Meredith, Cassidy, Lewis,
Hi.
Fernando, Kath, Ivo,
And Melania.
Jeremy, Melania, and Alena,
Melania from Slovenia.
for coming along tonight. You've been listening to yet another Wednesday night.
We did it.